Welcome to season 2 of Outstanding Women Leaders podcast. I'm your hysterical host of this witty and wise conversation, Katie L. Eats. Today I have on our show Stacie Ysidro, who is a sex and dating coach. We're going to get into that, recovery coach. And I am so honored to have her on for our very first witty and wise conversation. If you don't already follow Outstanding Women Leaders, you can follow us on Instagram at Outstanding Women Leaders, same on Facebook, or on Twitter at _OwlWoman. You can also follow me, Katie, owlprofessionalcoaching.com. You can follow me on Instagram at owl_coaching and find me on Facebook at Owl Professional Coaching. And you can find me on YouTube at Katie L. Eats. I've got really great videos out there if you'd like to see what I'm reading, what I'm writing, what I'm learning, and what I'm doing, or leading, actually. I think I reworded that because we're all leaders. I'm leading some things. I have some projects, and this podcast is one of them. Before we get started today, I want to set some rules for us to create a safe space. And I've posted these on Instagram today. As we step into witty and wise conversations, these are authentic. We are letting this conversation lead us where it takes us. And so it's really important that we understand that rule number 1 and 2, nobody gets to be wrong and nobody gets to be right. It's just a conversation. Conversations can spark excitement, they can spark ideas, and that's what we're here to do. It may even spark your conviction that we are absolutely wrong. But remember, this conversation is not about that. It's just about having a witty and wise conversation. It's like playing in a sandbox. It's messy. Everywhere you look, though, is a new treasure. Or is it cat poop? You decide. It's your conversation, too. Witty and wise conversations are vulnerable and create connection, which is why we ask all participants to join the podcast via video. Eyes are the window to the soul. You will be seen in each witty and wise conversation. At the end, Stacie, I will ask you if you have felt seen and heard today. That is our goal here on the podcast. That's enough rules for now. As you already know, I have freedom and flexibility in my rules. So before we got onto the podcast today, I asked Stacie if she had anything else that she needed, and we went over what our witty and wise conversation looked like. Stacie is a founder of Holistic Progressions. She's been coaching individuals and couples throughout the United States over 10 years. Her passion is helping people experience erotic freedom, full self-acceptance, and expression with grace and ease. She most enjoys seeing the transformation in people's sex lives extrapolate into all areas of their lives, creating more pleasure, fulfillment, passion, and peace. Resonates right here. Transformation always equals a better sex life, period. Mine is great. Stacie is a master at helping her clients create a sexually satisfying life. She combines sexology education, semantic coaching, ancient tantric arts, and shamanism in her coaching to create a unique transformational experience for her clients. Her personal story of recovery and understanding how to live sober and navigate intimacy and connection have given her a unique approach to transforming her clients' lives. Stacie is acknowledged as a sex coach by the World Association of Sex Coaches. She is also certified by Jaya, did I say that right? Awesome. World-renowned sexologist as an erotic blueprint coach, helping people to learn the language of arousal and pleasures. This is actually what sold me when I was talking to Stacie about this. This is going to be an amazing conversation because I love myself and learning about myself. And the erotic blueprint is the 5 love languages, so to speak, of your sex language. And I had so much fun with it. So we're definitely going to get into that today. Stacie serves clients in person, online, and over the phone. So everyone listening, you are eligible to work with Stacie. Sessions offered to individuals, couples, groups, and speaking engagements. Welcome!
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yay! I am so excited. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. I can't remember how I found how we connected. I know it was through Instagram. But I don't remember, goodness, of course, first episode. I don't remember how I like started following you on Facebook or on Instagram. I think I was searching like relationship coaches and just starting to follow relationship coaches because I also coach relationships. And I was just interested in the different niches because I have, of course, a niche as well. And I mean, who doesn't want to talk about sex?
Well, I know I like to talk about sex, so.
How did you get started talking about sex and relationships and helping people? I know you owned a salon before, and I owned a gym before, and that is actually where I really and I was a teacher, but the gym I really leaned into adults and coaching adults, and so tell us about that.
So for me is what had happened was I've always been really open about sexuality and very expressive and just feeling good about myself in sexuality. So I always used to kind of joke around and say, do I have like a sign on my forehead that says, tell me about your sex life? Because people would just tell me things and I'd roll with it and it was cool. And that was a lot, when I was working behind the chair as a stylist. And I was licensed when I was 17 years old when I graduated high school. So I pretty much worked in a salon from when I was 15 all the way up through when I was 30, and just growing through each part of that, becoming, a Redken certified colorist and training assistants and associates, and then being a shareholder and moving, further away from where I lived to open our second salon, and then running that one and managing that, and coaching our leadership team. So what I realized in that process was that it really wasn't the skills I learned about cutting hair or making appointments. It was really how I dealt with people in my interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So especially being so young, it's like there's a whole growing up thing. So I always kind of say I grew up in the salon,
Yeah.
and I realized what that big deal was. It was the coaching and mentoring that I received along the way. That is what really helped me. So then I went and got a business and life coaching certification through IPEC and started using that in the salon and with our leadership team. And they make you go through this process of like finding your niche.
Yeah.
And since, like I was saying, everyone always tells me about their sex life, you go through this whole process and it's like, find the themes and your passions and what do you like or what do people say about you? And everything was like spirituality and sexuality like interwoven together. And I was like, well, that's kind of odd. So I go back in there to declare my niche and do the hair toss and say, I'm a sex coach. And they're like, oh, well, that wasn't one of the options, but yes, you are.
That I love that. I absolutely love the way you told that story. If you're listening to this, you have to watch the video because it does it so well, and I'm like in this moment with you. I connect with your leadership drive. Like you wanted to be a better leader in your salon, and I wanted to be a better leader for myself and for people around me. And it's been an incredible experience working with coaches. I have had my first transformation with a coach, and it is a transformation. And my sex life got better immediately. Was It's been 2014, 20 to 2015. And I got divorced and I sold my business and I packed up my car and I drove halfway across the country. So when Stacie and I talk about coaching and transformation, it's a transformation. And I didn't talk about divorce and I didn't talk about my sex life. Maybe I need a coaching on that instead. But I did talk about my values. That's what you do a lot of in coaching and getting true to your authentic self. And when you show up authentically you, there is nothing you can't do. People will see exactly what I see looking at Stacie. I mean, she is just this electrifying the city of sex lives around the world. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. So having that realization, it made me really curious. Like, so what's a sex coach? If that's what I am, like, what does that even mean? So then I went off on this whole other journey around sexuality. So I eventually left the salon full time in like 2009, 2010, and started my own business and started taking all these different classes and workshops and certifications around sexuality. So I started with a lot of the Tantra and sacred sexuality practices, since that was really what that original calling was. I was mentoring with a Tantra
I don't know
practitioner.
what Tantra is, and that can you
Yeah, I
promote
will
it?
go into that a little bit. And also sexological body work. So I trained with a sexological body worker, which is somatic based body healing. Um,
I want to know
and
more about
then,
that too.
yeah, it's really cool. And then I've done dominatrix trainings. I have done sexology trainings. I got another actual sex coach certification from Sex Coach U with Dr. Patty Britton. So that was one of my foundations for sex coaching as well. And I had been following Jaya for over 10 years when I first started getting involved in the Tantra and sacred sexuality. So basically, Tantra is about mindfulness and presence. And, in the Western world, we hear Tantra and we think, it's about having sex for 5 hours straight. And the
Is that what
reality
people
is,
think?
yeah, they're like, does that mean I'm going to get to ejaculate 10 times in a row? And I'm like, no, that's not what that's about. It's a spiritual path, you
I
know,
love timeout. I love that a man equates something that we know like is supposed to be spiritual, not with having getting off track like so many times.
right. So one of the basic
Disconnect there.
one of the it's it is and it isn't, because now we're totally rabbit holing here, but the orgasm is not an ejaculation. The orgasm is the energy that's flowing through
Yeah.
you that can facilitate an ejaculation in a man or a woman, right? So with a lot of the tantric practices, a lot of my studies were around Taoist tantra and sacred sexuality, and then some Quidoshka Native American sacred sexuality practices. So there are cultures, mostly of the past, that celebrate sexuality. You see it in Hinduism with like the Karma Sutra, right? So there are different cultures that celebrate sexuality as a sacred union and a connection to something that's greater than us. And within the Taoist philosophy, we believe that orgasmic energy is that creative life force energy that flows through you and makes you alive. And so you can experience that in different ways throughout your life, like when we get lost in the moment in a hobby, or like we're doing something we're really passionate about, and spending time with someone we really enjoy. It doesn't have to be sexual, and like that time and space kind of disappears, and you're just within that moment. So you can experience that in different ways, but that most powerful exchange of life force energy is through sexuality and through orgasm. And if you think about it, that's literally how we procreate, right? And so that's just one thing that happens, but it is a connection to something that's greater than us or deeper than us. So it's about connecting with your own life force energy and being able to share and merge that and play in that with another person. And just to see the blueprints for later, there is a blueprint called energetic. And so Tantra is the space where you will, energetics really like the Tantra thing, because it's about energy exchange. It's not only focused on genitals. It's not about, a goal and result. It's about the presence and the play and the experience that you create together, rather than someone doing something to you or me doing something to someone else. So it's like a really, really beautiful space. And yeah, so I have lots of experience with that. It's super fun. And it's not for everyone either. You know, some people have a hard time connecting with that energetic space. So yeah, when we go into the blueprints, I can tell you a little more about the superpowers and shadows of the energetic. But yeah, I've done everything from that to BDSM, dominatrix work, you know, so yeah, all things sexual. I went on this huge exploration journey. And then when Jaya came out with the blueprints a few years ago, I was like, oh, I really want to know what this is. So I took the course myself and then realized, holy smokes, this is the perfect language for explaining how people's sexual responses, because I've been working with people for so long. I always used to say like, oh, it's kind of like in a spectrum and it's from here to here. But then once I heard the blueprints, it was like, these are the words. This is
Yes,
how you say it.
absolutely.
This
I've
makes
I've
sense.
never felt so seen in a sexual way as when I took the blueprint. I was like, yep, that's like that is me, and that's where that's 100%. And it gives you like really easy language, and then to tell your partner, I'm a shapeshifter, so when I'm ready to shift shapes. um, but
Yeah.
um I've just been very vocal about it's like I didn't know that that was me. Like I didn't have why is this happening today? I have turned this off several. So I got a new iPhone, everyone. Sorry, first episode. I don't know how to work it clearly. Um, wow. Sorry. Yeah. So where were we?
So I became an erotic blueprint coach.
Blueprint. Yes. Tell us more, man. While you tell us about the blueprint stuff, I'm gonna poke around on my phone and I'm gonna turn this damn thing off. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Okay, airplane mode, done. Okay.
So I became an erotic blueprint coach, and then I actually started mentoring with Jaya pretty closely for the last couple of years and really being involved in a lot of her trainings and events. And so that's one thing that I'm really passionate about, just because I've seen the personal transformation in my life, but also being able to see other people be able to step into pleasure in ways that they hadn't considered before, and being able to tap into your erotic self and remove shame and guilt and confusion and miscommunication, and see people just grow and transform into beyond what they could have imagined. And I will say sexuality and sexual development is that stuff. It's the last frontier in personal growth and development. So like you were saying, like, you know, you addressed all these other areas and things got better, but yet you weren't talking about this. So sexuality has always been this very taboo thing, and there's a lot of judgment and shame around it.
Yes.
So once we start to crack open that and really explore that, that will transform the whole rest of your entire life, because you are addressing the very core of all of those little tiny things that show up in business or in your family relationships or with a friend or road raging or all these other little things. So this is one of the most intense and powerful ways to step into your authentic self.
Absolutely. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, absolutely. What you also do recovery coaching. I'd love to know a little bit about how you use these tools to work with people who struggle to be authentic and vulnerable.
Right. So within my own journey, I have gone through, you know, various phases of my life of substance use and abuse. And for me, stepping into recovery has really allowed me to be all of me. And if anyone has the experience of addiction, then they know the spiritual death that occurs. Like everybody's bottom is different. Some people, it's, you know, health, it could be finances, it could be losing their kids or living on the street. but I'm seeing that most times today, addiction looks like I have a job, I'm paying my bills, the kids are still fed, but I'm dead inside and I have no will to live. And I keep doing this because that's just what I've been doing to cope with life on life's terms. So everyone has their own point when they're ready to shift into something different. And so for me, that was really, I call it like a spiritual death. It's being at the place where you don't really care if you live or die anymore. And most times you're just doing this dance with death, like playing around with, am I going to wake up or not? You know, who cares? It doesn't matter. And it's being in this cycle of continuing to do something over and over again, knowing that there's consequences and a negative result, and not being able to stop that. So being able to go into recovery, and recovery is different than just abstaining. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm just going to quit drinking, or oh, I'm just going to quit using, but they don't actually address those issues that were causing them to want to get outside of themselves in the first place. So what I found is in recovery, people have a lot of sexual issues going on. And in a lot of these programs, that's not really a subject they address. You know, it's technically like an outside issue. And a lot of people go from substance use to sex, and using sex to get outside of themselves. So I really saw that there is a need for people to be able to address sexuality and without the use of drugs and alcohol. So the past few years, I've kind of been framing some of my business that way, because I think that it needs to be addressed, and people need to know that they don't have to use a substance in order to step into pleasure. Like, even if they're not quote unquote like addicted or an alcoholic, most people are afraid to approach a person unless they're drinking, or they're afraid to step into pleasure without, like, maybe smoking pot, or they're using something to numb out the feelings that are, you know, stopping them, and they're trying to make that go away rather than addressing it and healing it and being able to step in that space consciously and authentically without the cloud of a substance.
Do you see patterns in the coaching? Like, I imagine that you see some of the same things kind of happening, where you see these similar saboteurs that come up.
Yeah, absolutely. Fear of rejection is huge. Fear of judgment, being judged, what someone else thinks. And I think a lot of this comes from our past programming. So I talk about sexual values a lot, and is what that is your attitudes, ideals, and beliefs around sexuality. So what is your definition of sex? What is your definition of orgasm? What does cheating mean to you? What kind of relationship do you actually want? Or, you know, do you believe in monogamy, or are you a not monogamous person? You know, and sex is it bad? Is it good? Is it for relaxation? Is it for pleasure? Is it for procreation? So really, it's all of those messages that we received, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, that have created who we are today and where we're at. And I find there's a lot of disconnect when we start having experiences and we're like, wait a minute, I was told all women XYZ, or all men XYZ, and that's not necessarily true. So now there's a disconnect. And so then we're busy trying to like be someone that we think we're supposed to be, but that's not really who we are. And so really it's like there's 4 people in a relationship, not 2, because you have who each one of you are, and then you have who you think you're supposed to be and trying to show up as. So no wonder everyone's confused.
Yeah, I see a lot of that in relationship coaching, where there's just they're not being true to their authentic self and their values in a way that they're not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And whichever lens that you look at in life, the rest of your life is going to ripple out and get better. What I found with coaching is that, and the learning, like I'm interested in Jai, like I think this would be super helpful for people to know, myself included. I love that you're still chasing learning. That is part of the coaching community. And that is the power of why coaching is transformative. People's lives literally change. And sometimes it's messy for a little while and it's really uncomfortable. But at the end, they're more authentically themselves. They are able to show up in a witty and wise conversation, knowing who they are, and expressing their needs.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting, the whole seeking thing, like the whole personal growth game can get really exhausting after a
Yep.
while, right? Because it's like, oh, the next seminar, the next, coaching thing, or the next workshop, or the next certification. And so I eventually got to this place where I realized, like, I'm whole and complete within me, and I'm enough. And I'm going to do this because I want to when it's fun, not because I'm coming from a place of lack, you
Yeah.
know. Yes, I can learn something new, and I'm totally open to that, but I'm not learning something new because I'm less than.
Yep, absolutely.
You
I
know?
signed up for neuro coaching, sort of as an additional certification to the coactive model. And the coactive model, you can't help but know that you're fully whole and that you are, like, you already have a knowledge, because you have these opportunities to coach amazing coaches who also benefit from your coaching. And it humbles you when you realize that someone who may not be as experienced as a coach can coach you for 10 minutes and transform your life, which is what happens every time I'm finishing my certification. So by October I will have, but I also wanted to chase that, do I have enough knowledge? And so I signed up for the neuro coaching, just so I could use, I've been saying to people about the new neural pathways, and what you're talking about is creating all of the positive emotion pathways, which is what I'd love to talk with you about. It's what the neuro coaching is designed to do, is that we can access a far more of our brain, with these positive emotions, and positive emotion, coaching is more effective than coaching for compliance. When you right, like, their compliance is not authentically you. Coaching for compliance is to reach a goal. And so the neuroscience supports, hey, people that think it's a little crazy to get a relationship coach or a sex coach, you're going to transform your life, and it will impact your work. It will impact all of the areas. Where do you see the biggest impact outside of the bedroom, obviously, on people's lives?
In their work, it's funny because they'll shift something in their sex life and they're like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what happened at work. Like, I was able to handle a difficult conversation. I was really present with someone and heard them, and I ended up not having to fire them because I listened and was present, and I was able to communicate with them and see them and hear them, or I was able to, get a promotion or make more money. So that's kind of cool how even like your personal sex life, like, even shows up in work,
Absolutely.
or just in other relationships. One of my clients said, some really weird stuff has been happening, and I don't know if this is anything that we're supposed to be talking about. I'm like, yes, absolutely, bring it. And he's like, but people are all of a sudden like opening up to me and having like deep conversations. And 6 months ago, I would have been in a lot of judgment and like would have run off from this and not been open to them. But now, like, I'm having these deep connections with people that isn't even sexual. So it's that ability to be open and connect with people, because really a lot of times people are seeking something through sex, and what they really want is connection,
Yeah.
intimacy. They want acceptance and love, and it doesn't have to be in a sexual setting, but a lot of times that's the way, especially for men, that's the only way they're told they're allowed to get those things, is through sex. So they seek sex when they really just want someone to hold them or to love them, or they want to be able to share their feelings, or they want to experience touch and connection, you know? So it's really cool to see it start showing up in other areas of their lives.
Yeah, what I hear you talking about is this, like, this saboteur of the avoider who avoids having the conversation that actually creates real connection and real intimacy. If you avoid talking about sex and really exploring your authentic self through sex, you also probably avoid conversations at work coming from an authentic place, particularly if you haven't really figured out what that authentic place is. When I transitioned and packed up my life, I also had gone through a mental breakdown. And it took me a little while for your brain to heal, because that's a traumatic experience. And I had a lot of new neural pathways to be created before you're able to really be like, I did it because I wanted to be my authentic self. And I had a moment, and I think my brain broke, because my brain's like, whoa, we weren't ready for that. You did it all at once. And so as you get more in touch with your authentic self and you start showing up, like, you really transform other people's lives through the conversations and the coaching that you have.
Yeah. And it's interesting because as coaches will say, I want to be my authentic self and experience fulfillment. And people don't say that. It's interesting. Like, people will say, I'm overwhelmed. I feel like my life has no meaning. I'm exhausted. I have no sex drive. I don't want anyone to touch me, or I'm craving touch and I just want something and I don't know what it is, but the words that they use are like those real life things. Like, what's the purpose anymore? I feel like I'm missing out on something and I don't know what it is and I want to know.
Yeah. Do you coach more relationships or singles? Or is it
I've coached a lot of single people, and then I've done some couples as well.
Yeah, I coach both as well, but people that are single, what I find, I don't coach the sex part, but what I find is that the avoiders, that avoider comes up still in conversations, and conversations that are vulnerable, that can create connection. And so I could imagine that is that part of their um, conversation fix. They became more authentic. They felt more comfortable, where their sex life would flourish. Like, people think, oh man, this guy was great. Like, I felt so comfortable with him. Like, you don't feel comfortable enough to tell him what you really feel. Then how much better could the sex be if you've tapped into that authentic self and were able to tell people, beyond just this, the sex part, but all your other feelings as well. How much do you see that come up, where there's all these other feelings that they've been avoiding that they need to talk about?
Well, what I'm hearing you say is that, yeah, people have trust issues
Yes.
and that they're afraid,
Yes.
right? They're
Yes.
afraid of rejection, of judgment. They're afraid they're not enough in some way, shape, or form. So a lot of times, yeah, they may avoid or appease or, go along with something just because they have some fear. So there's absolutely that. But yeah, it comes up in, yeah, there's a fear there. And there is also what I just said, the first thing that I just said.
The trust issues.
Yeah, the trust issues.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's trust issues because a lot of times they're not trusting themselves and
Yes,
they
the
don't
vulnerability of
trust
the
the other
self. Yes.
person. So, but we're not taught how to get vulnerable. We're not told that we're allowed to get vulnerable and that it's okay. We're not told that we're allowed to have feelings. We're not taught how to express our feelings in a way that is going to be like received. We're not taught to receive people's feelings.
Yeah. So something I heard today in my neuro coaching call that was so fascinating for me was, the way that we process trauma, like the location in the brain next to it stays with us. Like, it is an impression. That's how powerful emotions are. And when you can tap into your emotions and positive emotions, that you create new connections, you create new pathways, you create entire transformation and your thinking. Like your brain is that powerful. You're coming from owning a gym, your body will continue to move far beyond your mind. Like your mind will quit first. And when you see top athletes, like the gymnast who did the thing and landed, she had a broken leg, remember, like in the 90s? I can't remember what her name was. But she had a broken leg and she still did this thing and landed perfectly. That is a powerful mind. And I think if people understood the powers of emotions, we often think that it's a weakness. And if you can only use 10% of your brain, if you can access more, you can do more. And these emotions are so important to understand and to own, so that you can transform into whatever you want and really create what you want.
Yeah, I think that that's also one of the challenges, is that people don't know what they actually want,
Yes, that's
right?
why they need
They,
to hire a coach.
yeah, they don't know exactly what they want. And so therefore they don't know how to get it. They know what they don't want, but it's transforming that into what they do want and really creating a vision of hope to energetically align themselves with. And there is a lot, like Joe Dispenza's work is a lot about the reprogramming your brain and body, and stepping out of a 3D world into a quantum reality.
Do you use visioning with clients in your coaching?
Yes, if that's something that they like and are into.
Yeah.
So going back to the blueprints, someone that's energetic and sensual might be very much into, like, breathing and, visualizing energy and things like that. Someone that is maybe a sexual blueprint may be like, this is a waste of time. What the hell is this bullshit? So one of my gifts is that I can take something that's really far out and vague and make it really clear and concise and to the point.
Yeah.
So I'm able to meet people where they're at, to where if they are in this energetic space, I can go there. But if that is too much, then I know how to cut through all of this nonsense and get to the point. And so I do processes with people called, it's called accelerated evolution. And I love it because they're like some of the spiritual practices that I've done without the spirituality piece. It's just like cut through the crap, get to the bottom of it, and come into the unity piece and, poof this. So it's actually really cool. I have a lot of different tools that I'll use with people depending on where they're at and what they're open to.
Yeah, that's what I love about the neuro coaching for people is if we're more on people that tend to want to be more analytical, that that don't want the positive emotions, which are actually what's going to work. There's a lot of different tools that can help get there. That's what I love about coaching. Did you ever do therapy in recovery or at any point in your life?
Oh yeah, I love my therapist.
Hey, hey. So I always want to give a shout out to my therapist people out there. Mine is incredible. And she uses the language survive or thrive. And that is language of resilient people who continuously ask themselves, is this allowing me to survive something because I'm hurt right now, or is this going to help me thrive? And so I love my therapist for maintenance to grieve along the way. Sometimes there's parts of our saboteurs that don't want us to be our authentic selves that we need to grieve. I also lost my mother 2 years ago, and my dad is navigating. Oh my God, how did I not think of this? My dad's gay now. He's always been gay, but he married my mother and he lived a life with her. And so he'd never lived as a gay man. He'd never lived his full sexual expression of himself. I'm going to have him reach out to you for this, for a session. This man needs you. And so my therapist told me about the Sage Center in New York, which is a place for elderly LGBTQ people. It's amazing. It's for 60 plus, right? So they have free meals, they have all these programs. And so my dad was he'd never been to New York. He was looking forward to two things: the John Lennon Memorial, well, three things: seeing his daughter and going to the Sage Center. So he met a men's group, and for the first time in 64 and a half years, he was sitting amongst men who were just like him. And he's sharing his story of coming out. And he'd never kissed a man before he married my mom. So he'd never had an experience with a man. And so he wanted to come back in October. It was very liberating for my dad. And dad still cries a lot over my mother. He loved her deeply. And I know that this part of him has also been just hidden for so long. And so dad came back in October, and he met a man who had a very similar story of marrying a woman who had died 10 weeks earlier. He had an only child. And so dad got to text his daughter and let her know about losing his virginity. That is how supportive I am as a coach. As I'm there for dad. And then I'm there to remind him I'm his daughter. So set dad up, and dad did what I could not do in 4 months. It took, he met a rich man on the Upper West Side. And so dad is, he should talk to you.
That's awesome. And I have absolutely worked with people who are 65 and having like different health issues and things going on, and they're just now discovering what gives them pleasure. And so I like to tell people that it's never too late to step into pleasure, and pleasure is your divine birthright, and you are not broken, and your body is wired for pleasure. And we experience pleasure and sexuality throughout our whole lives. We're sexual beings from conception until death. We just have different expressions of it as we go throughout different stages of our lives. So it's never too late.
I love that. I'm going to connect you guys. Someone in my coaching class cohort needed to coach someone. And so my dad got coaching from her. And I think now he's kind of sold a little bit on understanding the difference between, and it is positive emotion coaching. It's not coaching for compliance. You don't have an agenda for someone. Just like I don't have an agenda for any of my clients, even if they're really good friends. My agenda is to help them pull out what they value, what I hear that they value, and fully express that in their life. How do you see that translate in the bedroom?
So I often find that people come in with a specific issue, and then once we start peeling back the layers, it's much deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
So coaching in general, especially life coaching, is based on, I'm going to help you find your own answers. So it's not me to tell you, right? I'm going to set the stage and the space and ask you empowering questions about what you want and help you clarify that and create an action plan with you and help hold you accountable, right? So with sex coaching, there is that piece, and there's also a huge amount of education that's involved. So that's one of the big differences that I found between sex coaching and life coaching, because we don't get sex education. And so a lot of what I do as well is give people resources and different practices and tools around expanding their pleasure, or helping to normalize maybe what's going on with their body, right? And giving them an amount of sex education based on what it is that they're seeking. So there's like this whole other education piece that happens, and what they start with, it usually ends up as something different. So do you want to try something and be an example?
I absolutely do. It's funny because my next thing I was going to ask was, can we do this? I was going to suggest a bonus episode, but I guess you brought it up, so they're going to get it now.
So we're going to do a little process, and I will ask you basically the same thing a couple of times, right? So we're going to start with when it comes to your sex life, what do you actually want?
Connection.
Okay. And if you had that connection, what would that bring you that is even deeper?
Love.
Okay. And if you had love, what would that bring you that's even deeper than that?
My voice.
Your voice. So you can see that we started out with a sexuality piece and what do I want? I want to connect with someone, and what I really want underneath of that, what that means to me is that I'm using my voice. So you can keep going deeper in that. Like if you're using your voice, what do you have that's even deeper than that?
Desires.
Desires. And then if you have these desires, what does that bring you that's even deeper?
That's for the bonus episode.
Yeah. So, but you can see that on the surface, you know, a lot of guys say, well, I want more sex. Okay, great. So if you have more sex, what does that bring you? Well, then, I mean, I would have like a partner or something. Okay, well, if you had a partner, what would that mean? Well, then that would mean that like I have someone to do stuff with, and we get to have sex, and we get to like go to dinner. And okay, well, if you had that, what does that mean? Well, they would love me and accept me. And so it starts out with, yeah, I just want to have more sex, but what I'm really looking for is a deep connection and love and understanding and acceptance, right? So it's really interesting once you start peeling those layers back, where that leads you.
Yeah.
So I always say, you start with a goal, right? Because you have to start somewhere, but part of the magic is releasing attachment to that goal and being open
And
to the process
I just coached this today. Release
yeah,
the attachment to the goal. I
of
just
whatever it is that shows up, and a lot of times I found, like, when I say, okay, this is what I want and this is the way I want it, one, if I get it, that's not really what I wanted, it doesn't make me happy. Or
Yep.
two, I don't get it and I get something different that serves me so much better, and it was so much more amazing than anything that I personally could have ever planned. So in releasing the attachment to the end result, I just went on this amazing journey and ended up more whole and complete and fulfilled than if I was so focused on checking off all these boxes.
100%. And what I love about what you just did there in that exercise is that you pulled out my saboteur. And my saboteur is I avoid. And so when I said voice, like that's an avoidant. And so what I very much relate, you say the life coaching piece, you're correct. For me, it's the neuro part that I like to bring in for clients to propel faster because, everybody wants to move. They want to be fixed like that. And I'm like, but you're not broken. But what we can do is we can increase how quickly you're able to create new positive connections to new experiences that will propel you forward. And where you end up on that journey, like you said, don't be attached to a goal. Be attached to an outcome of self-fulfillment and really knowing yourself, like you're going to get there. How long do you typically work with clients?
So I usually do packages for like 3 to 4 months because I like to do weekly sessions, but I know life happens. So I just say don't go longer than 2 weeks in between. So it could be a 3 to 4 month package. I also have 6 month options, and then I have a year-long mentorship program that I offer.
What's your year-long mentorship program look like?
So that it definitely includes the blueprint course because I do bonus that in most of my sessions. But that one is a really deep journey into sexual exploration. So we start by clarifying what you want and start figuring out what it is that's holding you back and start clearing those blocks. And once we start clearing those blocks, then we definitely cover communication skills. And if they have a partner, working with their partner as well. I do offer in-person somatic body-based coaching as
Oh, that's
well.
right. I wanted to know more about
Right.
that.
And so that's usually included in the mentorship, and is what I like to do is go with whatever's appearing. So it's like, if you want to play and go on a journey for a year and see what manifests, then let's do it. And yeah, I have some programs that have certain, sections in them that we'll definitely cover, but I'm more focused on what's appearing for you right now and how can we expand this and move forward and try something different. So that's even gone through, helping people find different avenues for sexual exploration, whether it's like different clubs or events, or going with someone to an event, or going with someone to the toy store. Or I do this thing when you step into like your erotic personality. Jaya has a bonus course called the Erotic Persona course. And so that's available within the Blueprint program. And I've done a lot of personal work with stepping into my erotic self. And even before that, I was like, holy smokes, I've done this. Or in therapy, it's like parts work, right? So the idea is that if you, get in touch with, say you have an inner seductress, right? Or you have like an inner dom or an inner submissive part that just wants to be told what to do and ravaged. You tap into this piece of you, and then you start to develop it and then integrate it. So it's really cool because you go through, like I said, a whole removing, like, who's your gatekeeper? Who's stopping this person, part of you, from being allowed to come out? And then now let's talk with this part and see what it wants and needs. Let's go through and what do you wear? What are your mannerisms? Like when I go into my more dommy persona, I notice my voice gets deeper and my posture changes and I get a different look on my face.
That's what I see in your photos, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love that energy because that's who you are.
But then I also have this like super light, fun, airy, fairy spiritual being that gets,
which you can
really
also
light
totally see.
and slows down and gets really present. So it's like being able to step into all these pieces of you and integrate them into your being. So there's not just one person driving the bus.
I love it.
So that stuff is full on in like a year-long adventure. And I have some people that come to me just because they want to focus on that, and then we can knock that out in 3 or 4 months. But yeah, it's super exciting.
I love this. Thank you so much for letting me participate. That was super fun. Now I spoke it out into the universe. I am focusing on I'm going to grieve on Friday with my therapist, my avoidant saboteur. I'm going to stop avoiding and people pleasing. And I've taken a lot of really great steps with that, with my actual relationship, because when I met him, I was fully in tune with myself when I met him. Like I was right into do you remember when you first started doing the coaching and you got really empowered, you found your life path? That's when I met this man. So that relationship was great. I am like super high avoidant. He is super low avoidant. So we don't avoid anything. And it's amazing because he's exactly what I need. So I had spoken it out that I was going to stop avoiding the people pleasing with friends, with, the asshole on the bus. I don't know. My inner Midwest might still kick in and I won't be an asshole, but, this will be my chance. So my voice, my desires, I'm committing on here that I will, stop avoiding any desire that I may have not seen coming, and I will share it. So it's gonna have a great weekend, everybody. I would love if you would participate in an affirmation exercise with me. Have you ever done affirmations?
Yeah.
Amazing. So you've sat in the hot seat and you've been showered with affirmations before?
Yeah, I've done different exercises like that where, we tell people stuff about them. Yeah.
Okay.
But tell me what yours is, because that's different
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I want to know your version of this.
So this is the coactive version, and um, what I love about it is that it gives you 2 full minutes to soak in all of the beauty that the people in the room get to see. And I'm the only person in the room, so it's just going to be me. And then for 1 minute, you are going to share back to me anything that you own that you heard, and anything that you didn't hear that you are.
Okay, so you're going to tell me things that you've like mirror back to me what you've seen about me.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say, you are a liberator. You are magnificent. I'm going to share what things that you are for
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay, and then I'm gonna
You are
repeat
gonna,
what resonated with me.
yes, you're listening for
Okay,
what
or anything
resonates,
else.
and
Okay.
anything else that I didn't say because I've spent, an hour and a half total with you.
Right?
um, so I'm going to set my timer.
Okay.
Part is it will be as equally awkward for me as well, because I feel pressure to say something brilliant.
Whatever you say, it's gonna be perfect just
Perfect.
the way that
I
it is.
thank you for the reminder. And so here we
Yeah.
go. You are a liberator. You are freedom. You are power, fire. You're also this wind. Like I picture you, like when the leaves kind of flow in the wind and shift. You are open. You are vulnerable. You see people. You electrify people's bodies. You create connection. You transform lives. You are loving. You are kind and compassionate. You are a great conversationalist. You are an energy that puts people at ease but gets them on the edge of their seat at the same time. You are like a nice glass of wine sitting in front of a sunset. Your joy. You're radiant. You are complete. You are that dominatrix. You're leather. I don't see lace, but maybe, I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm done. I'm off the hot seat.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I so much appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot. So, yeah, what resonated with me. Yeah, just a sense of like completeness and like being seen in the wholeness that I am
Part is
seeing.
that for this part, if you could just say I am and whatever you're claiming. I want you
Like
to step into your power.
the strength and stability piece. You know, I am strength, and I am also that vulnerability and light air. Um, and I'm absolutely powerful transformation for sure.
Yeah.
I am a great conversationalist. and I hold space for people, yeah, with love and compassion, the love and compassion piece. And what else? Yeah, transformational artist, facilitating transformation, reminding people who they are inside. I am unconditional love. I am whole and complete. And I am you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying yes to my invitation to try something today.
Thank
Um,
you. That was fun.
I am whole and complete, naturally resourceful, creative, and whole. I am also an invitation to try. I am a city that electrifies, powers. I power a city. I am. I'm also a gentle soul. I am creative. I am freedom. I am childlike. I am innocent. And I am also going to invite people to try something with Stacie, because Stacie is offering an amazing opportunity. Stacie, share with our audience, if they've made it with us this far.
I come bearing gifts, pun intended. And so can you. So jokes aside, I do have a gift for people. If anyone has felt called or even triggered, you're welcome to by anything that we talked about in this time together. If you want to know more about something, I'm offering a passionate possibility call to where we are going to go into what do you want, brainstorm on ways to get it, see what's holding you back, and I can give you some resources and referrals to help you start into your journey along the way. And if we are a good fit together, then I'm happy to tell you about some of the coaching programs that I do offer in more detail. But ultimately, people experience growth and transformation and clarity just from having this one phone call. So if you're at that holy jumping off point and are ready to take that leap and learn more and know more, then you can send me an email and tell me that you heard me on this podcast. It's wise and witty now, isn't it? Owl, outstanding.
It's outstanding women leaders.
Women leaders,
Is
wise and
is
witty
witty and wise,
conversation.
but you just have to look for outstanding women leaders. Just
Yes.
mention that.
Yes.
And owl, give a hoot, say something about us.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely going to plan time for the first 10 people that I hear from this, because these are hour-long phone calls. And
Wow.
I'm going to, give you, I'm gifting 10 hours to you
That's
guys.
amazing. It's such a every time you have coaching, you feel some type of transformation. And conversations like this one, if you're listening, I hope were transformational for you today. I know that they were for me. I have been working on not avoiding things, and I'm excited to just create low-hanging fruit. Don't avoid something with Dan is super easy. I just haven't thought about myself in a while in that way. So I'm excited. I feel like I will be transformed, and that I already am, because I'm thinking about doing something that normally I would have been like, meh. And so that's an amazing offer, guys.
And I'm going to give my email address too. I know you're going to put it in the links in the comments, but it is holisticprogressions@gmail.com. So holisticprogressions@gmail.com.
Okay.
And Holistic Progressions is my website. And you can find me on Instagram at sexcoach_Stacie.
I love following you. You have the best pictures. Love reading your posts. Thank you so much for joining us. for our first episode of Witty and Wise Conversations. Last season, we ended every episode asking a couple questions. I'd love to know for you, I have two questions. The first one, what's your superpower? And the second one is, what's next for you?
Which superpower would I like to share?
Whichever one you're feeling.
Okay, so recent conversations that have come out, one of my superpowers is being clear and concise and getting to the point, cutting through the nonsense and the lies, illusions, and stories so that we can see what needs to be seen, hear what needs to be heard.
Yes. I love this superpower. And I have a woman in my life who is not my friend, because I'm not allowed to call her my friend. She knows who she is right now, who is clear, concise, and cuts right to the bullshit. And she is always holding me accountable in a way that I appreciate. That is an incredible superpower, and it's exactly how I know that someone will be absolutely transformed by a conversation with you.
And it all comes from a place of love and compassion.
It absolutely does. And if you're still with us and you still want to hear where you can learn about me as well, of course, owl_coaching. You can find me at owlprofessionalcoaching.com. The podcast is also there if you'd like to see the video. You can also see the video on the YouTube channel for Outstanding Women Leaders, as well as Apple Podcast and Podbean. Write us a review if you like us. If you don't, keep your mouth shut and mind your business. And if you're interested in neuro coaching and looking at how you can neuro hack your way, I will have a really cool masterclass coming out soon, and Witty and Wise and Relationships conversation with Stacie. I'd love to invite you to just come back. It's once a month I do Witty and Wise and Relationships. I'll invite you and you can pop in and offer your advice. I invite coaches because I'm not the expert on everything, and I love different opinions.
Super. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we still have, another episode coming with detailed blueprint stuff.
Right.
So that's what's coming next in the future at some point. I'm putting that out there for us.
Done. Bonus episode, because everybody's going to want more sex.
Yes, and I'll still give you the link to the erotic blueprint quiz, so that way you can put it in the description and people can start to learn more about it. And then that way when we go to do it, they'll be like, oh my gosh, now I know what
it. I love that you also simultaneously answered what's next by putting that out into the universe. So what's next for Stacie is bonus episode, erotic blueprint. Get your 5 love languages of sex. Have us talk about it. I will get a little uncomfortable with it, but I will explore this space with Stacie. I can't wait. This is going to be so fun.
Ooh, you're going to make fear your lover.
It's funny because I do so many things fearlessly, but I gotta fear something. Keeps me humble. No, it holds me back. I'm kidding. God keeps me humble. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stacie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Katie at Outstanding Women Leaders. We give a hoot about you and humor too. When we are allowed to go back into the world, I will be at the comedy stage again, doing stand-up and putting it out there. Netflix, if you're listening, Mom's dead, Dad's gay now, I'm still funny is a cool Netflix title special, or, Witty and Wise Conversations with Katie could also be a really great Netflix special. Just putting it out there. Thanks. Thank you, Stacie.